my mom to domestic violence at 6. I went to a juvenile detention center when I was 9. My father passed away in prison when I was 12. Statistics say I should be a dropout, drug addict, in prison, or dead.
Options, right? You get to see, do you want to be the guy on the train begging for change, or do you want to be the guy theoretically in a suit going to work, right? Just using that as an example. So having clear examples of what I didn't want to be was a good motivator too.
8-day trek, Kilimanjaro. Mount Everest was even longer. Then you had, you had to wear spikes on your shoes for the Greenland marathon. But yet the hardest thing you've done was the ayahuasca ceremony.
By far.
Why?
It's like getting 10 years of therapy in one session. And I tell you, I was like, sign me up. I got exactly not what I wanted, but what I needed.
Welcome to the Maestre Mentality podcast, where I get to interview some of the dopest individuals that I've met through this amazing journey of life. Individuals with the most amazing stories and plenty of lessons to share. Every single person, though, we have one thing in common that has brought us together. We all have a love for boxing. But it's always been bigger than boxing. On that note, let's get into these stories.
I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the...
They say the relationship you build with somebody in the boxing ring is unlike anything else. Today's guest is somebody who I consider my brother, if not more. Brothers not by blood, but by the amount of rounds we have put in together in the boxing ring. Somebody who I could go full on 100% during a sparring match trying to kill each other, but immediately followed up with a deep-ass conversation as we hit the deli and walk to the F train. Today's guest is somebody that I truly look up to and respect. Not just a professional boxer, but so much more. Somebody that had to overcome major trauma at a young age, losing his parents, and being set up for failure. Somebody that truly has overcome and will continue to overcome challenges. Now he spends his days sharing his light, his passion, his story with thousands across New York City, all while seeking out the craziest challenges in order to elevate himself. Mount Everest, Kilimanjaro, marathons in Greenland, the list goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited to have my brother, Brian Cubero, on today's episode of Maestre Mentality. What's up, B?
My man, I love it when I hear the English version of Cubero. My man,
right?
What's going on, my brother?
I'm the worst. Again, let me know how to properly pronounce it. Let the world know.
We'll give you 3 shots, but I got a feeling because you got the S down packed from Joanne back in the day. It's Cubero.
Cubero. I'll take that, man. How are you doing, brother? I haven't seen you since pre-pandemic. Yeah. You've been doing some great things. I've been following obviously on social and everything. Just tell me how you doing, bro? Like,
it's been a hell of a minute, man. Life is it's crazy because usually you say a lot has changed since we last seen each other, but that cliche, that saying is really true now, man. 2020 was that's when you left to Cali, as soon as the pandemic hit.
Yeah, we moved to California,
and it's now 2022.
Yo, which is wild because it's October 2022. It's about to be 2023, and it felt like the beginning pre-pandemic, end of 2009. It felt like that was yesterday.
Yeah,
bro. Like
time is warped.
It's crazy. Like you had just ran the New York City Marathon in 2019. I remember that.
Yeah, that was that's right.
Like that felt like yesterday. Now it's almost 3 years.
And so much has changed, man. You got another baby here. It's crazy. Dude.
It's
Cali,
crazy.
It's been a minute.
It's crazy. Well, let's get into this first question then. I like easing the audience into everything, letting them kind of get to know you a little bit. Talk about where you were born, where'd you grow up, and ultimately, how did you end up at the boxing gym where we met, the world famous Gleason's gym in Brooklyn? Give them a little backstory on all that.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Brooklyn, New York, where Gleason's is, and growing up here has always been. It's funny, man. Boxing seems to be, now that I'm in the boxing community, it's hard to not see boxing in New York. Like boxing's everywhere. But growing up, that certainly wasn't the case. I think you had Chuck on in the first episode. He was chasing the baseball dream as well, and that's what I was doing. growing up. So the journey was baseball, baseball, baseball. Eventually, that didn't click for me. So was kind of lost, to be honest. It was like a year and a half. I remember like looking back, where I was just kind of going through the motions, going to work, coming home, and yeah. Eventually, long story short, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, look, you need to come join the gym." He was at Gleason's, and I was working with him at Equinox. And it's funny, man. That's the first boxing gym I was exposed to, and the first boxing coach that I was exposed to. What are the odds that one is world-renowned
Spoiled.
Gleason's gym, and two,
Spoiled.
what are the
Spoiled.
odds that you get Joan Guzman as your first coach? No, and yeah,
Yo,
ultimately that's what we linked up. Yeah,
that's crazy you say that, because how I met Joanne, I wasn't even living in New York yet. Annie was living there, and I was coming to visit, and I was like, oh, I got to work out this week. So I literally just walked into Gleason's, and I remember, if you not Don the trainer, but OG Don, who would work the desk, I went up to him.
right.
I was like, hey, is there a trainer I could work with today? He's like, oh yeah, actually, I got somebody for you right here. And Joanne had just, I think he was still competing at the time, but just about to retire. And Joanne was in there. He's like, "Oh yeah, you could train with me." And then we trained one day, and he was like, "Oh, bring sparring gear. Bring some tomorrow. You could spar me." He beat the brakes off of me, bro. Sparring the next day, and I fell in love with him and his coaching, and I ended up moving to New York a few months later, and I think this was at the time you and him started working together too. Is when
Right.
when he just retired, and we developed all together. He developed as a coach, from a fighter
Right,
to an amazing
right.
coach,
True. That's right.
using us as his experiments.
Right. And I got to tell you, man, for his first try, looking back, I actually hadn't thought about that. Now that you put that out there, looking back, man, it's like having your first kid. You're gonna make some mistakes, I'd imagine, but I think he did a really, really good job. I mean, considering how we turned out from a skill perspective and
Oh,
mentality,
from a absolutely, and,
yeah,
and and definitely his impact is felt through the boxing world, not just through himself, but through us,
that's right.
his
That's right.
goodness. And we got to get him on here on the show soon,
That'll
and
be amazing,
maybe you
man.
come on and
Do like a
translate, bro.
three-way, yeah. Right. I gotta pay me for that.
So okay, so you grew up in Brooklyn, all right, and baseball was your thing. When did you stop playing baseball?
It was
College?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was right in the third year of college. I was so committed to the dream. Jay, I didn't even finish my last year. So I'm a college dropout, third year, playing baseball, chasing the dream. And at the time, to give you context, I wasn't working. I had like a small inheritance when my dad passed away. When I turned 18, I was using that money to kind of bridge the dream between, trying to get there from today. Hopefully, I had
Wow,
that money to sustain me until I made it. Long story short, I was dead broke on my ass. The baseball dream fell apart. So this was like at 2021. I was turning 22, senior year in college, and yeah, man. So I was chasing the dream all the way, and then that year was when it clicked. It wasn't happening for me. I'm going to these tryouts. I'm seeing guys that are six years younger than me, 16, 17, throwing 90 miles an hour, left-handed, curveball, splitters, change.
wow.
I'm like, man, and I'm, at my best day, it was 88, 89 if I was lucky, and so I just fell short. And it was a big eye-opening experience, like the kind of talent that's required to get into the major leagues. And
That's crazy.
yeah, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I'm just reflecting on the fact that in Brooklyn there's a lot of phenomenal athletes in Brooklyn and in New York, and you're exposed to that at an early age. But even past that, once you're at the collegiate level, nothing could
Right.
really prepare you for that.
And then imagine the national level, right? So I was hearing you talk about, the journey you had with basketball. It's similar, right? As you continue to grow your circle, you play high school ball, college ball, then you realize like, wow, you actually there's a big pool of extremely talented people out there. And not that should deter you from wanting to dream big and thinking that it's possible, but there comes a point where you do have to assess objectively, like, what do I have and what is required? And that time came for me, and
Yeah.
I fell short. No.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't born to be over 6 foot. My vert wasn't that good.
Yeah.
These sports take out a certain athletic ability and size and gifts to execute on. And granted, you have like your Steph Currys and ones that break past that. but the statistics, they make it a lot harder for us to do that. And you come to a road and you say, okay, I'm going to keep going and pursue this, or I'm going to pivot, adapt, and be great at
Right.
something else. It's not just
That's the key
stopping
word, man.
at nothing. So you mentioned, okay, moving on to the next question. You mentioned that inheritance from your father passing away. So, and it's crazy, like before we even started recording, we were just talking about your incredible story and how not a lot of people know this, but I reread this from your social post you posted years ago, but just let me read the quote or the caption. It says, I lost my mom to domestic violence at 6. I went to a juvenile detention center when I was 9. My father passed away in prison when I was 12. Statistics say I should be a dropout, drug addict, in prison, or dead. And I mean, those are strong statistics to go through all that at a young age. But you're none of that, bro. You're not even close. Take me from the start of overcoming that journey and when you decided you didn't want to be another statistic.
You know, I thought about that question. You sent me, a list of questions to think about just to kind of get the conversation going in my head. And man, I gotta say, I'd be lying if I didn't start with the first and most important of all the reasons that I might list after this. Um, there's a lot to say about luck in your life, right? Like you don't decide the parents you're born to, the country you happen to be born in. There's a lot that you have no say in, right? How tall you are. We talked about athletic abilities. Um, I had no say in the luck that I was blessed with when it comes to the people in my life that stepped up. And these people had no blood, no relation, no kin, right? Like these are people that you can call strangers. As a matter of fact, one person, my half brother's mother, this is a former ex-wife of my father. Um, she takes me in, right? Somebody that's not even blood. She took me in, and that was a home for 5 or 6 years. Imagine that, right? To have that kind of heart, to have that
Wow.
kind of spirit, where you take in the son of your ex-husband's now current wife. So I had there was a lot of blessings that I had no say in, right? People that came into my life that I was very lucky to have take care of me. Now, with all that said, um, yeah, there's a couple things there, right? So you mentioned what made me realize that I did not want to be a statistic. I think early on I was well aware of how fast or how costly mistakes could be, right? So if you think about what you said before, I lost my mom to domestic violence. My dad made a mistake in the heat of a moment, right? He decided, or he didn't decide. Actually, he probably just acted, right? He didn't think. Um, so yeah, I learned early on, very early, that your mistakes have a price attached to them, right? Whether it's you pay with your life, if you get into a scuffle and your life could end there, right? Is it worth that? Or it could also end by you doing something stupid and then you have to go to prison, right? So I think that it wasn't something I consciously think about, right? Like no 7, 8, 9-year-old walks around thinking, don't go to jail. But it was something that was like beneath thinking level where I knew like I had to be really careful because life is very real. Like there's prices to pay for things. Um, yeah, and I think as you get older, man, as you start to develop your identity, you start to develop your cognitive functions a little bit. You start to think, and you start to see, quite honestly, what you don't want to be. Right? There's a lot of people. New York is it's a great reflector to you where there's options. Right? You get to see. Do you want to be the guy on the train begging for change, or do you want to be the guy theoretically in a suit going to work? Right? Just using that as an example. So having clear examples of what I didn't want to be was a good motivator too. You know.
Wow. So, I mean, first of all, that's incredible that she took you in at that
Unbelievable.
time. And so you credit it to the luck of the people you were surrounded with and taking you in at that moment, but also understanding reality and how crazy it is to experience the reality of what the world is and what it can become at such an early age. Like that can have, and I talked about it on the last episode with Christina is witnessing like your parents splitting at a young age. And I see my son, 3 years old, he picks up on everything. He
Oh yeah.
has better memory than I do.
Hmm.
And the things that I do around him shapes his habits. but the things that happened around you shaped your habits for the better. Was it always for the better off the bat, or were you falling into some shit, when things started going down?
Oh, dude, I'd be lying if I tell you, that it was all good and no bad. I think everything has duality, right? I mean, if we just use the example that you just brought up of being a father, I'm sure I can't imagine how wonderful it is, but it comes with responsibility. There's a duality to things, right? It's not all good and all
Mm,
bad. For sure, there was a lot of bad, man. I think at that age, any kid who you talk to who's gone through some stuff, they don't necessarily have the ability to articulate what they're thinking or what they're feeling and things like that. But they do find other ways to express how they feel or to suppress, right? Then you have the quiet kid in the corner who doesn't want to talk to anybody. I was more of like, I'm gonna go out there and cause damage. Like
mm.
well, not
Paint
damage.
that picture a little. Paint that picture a little bit more. Give some examples of
Yeah.
I'm sure some people could relate to them when they were getting into trouble at a young age and rebelling because they're unhappy about certain things. Share some of that then.
No doubt. I think if I just use one example, I think this is you brought that up in the quote that you have from the post that I put up, the juvenile detention piece of it. You know, it's funny looking back on life, man. Things make sense. I think everybody says this. Things are in hindsight, things are 2020, right? As you reflect back on your life, things make sense. In the moment, I didn't realize. Let's give you the story first, just to give context to the kind of things that the ways that I rebelled or the ways that I misbehaved to try to get attention from people. It really is love, right? That's all it is that I was seeking was connection and somebody to say that they cared, somebody that saw me, right? So give you context. At the time, I was living in Florida with a friend of my mom, and I had an older cousin there. When you're Spanish, everybody's a cousin, but he wasn't really a cousin. He was obviously her son, but we're cousins now, right? We live together. So he was maybe 4 years older than me, and at the time, it was really cool to smoke. I was like 9 years old at this time, and it was really cool to smoke. So he's like what 14, 13. He's smoking cigarettes. It's a cool thing to do. I used to wear his clothes, of course, trying to model him and be cool like him. So one day I'm wearing his pants. I'm in school. I'm in detention center, of course, after school. And the only one there that day, there's usually other kids that are there with you. But that day I was by myself. It was close to the end of the detention and I was getting ready to leave. Uh, so I go to the bathroom. I use the bathroom, wash my hands. And of course, I don't use the towels to wipe my hands. I just wash my hands or dry my hands on my jeans, like rubbing them down my legs. And I felt a lighter in my pocket. And it's funny, man. Like this is another thing. They've done studies on this. Like when you early on in your childhood, when you go through traumatic experiences, you struggle with impulsiveness, right? Like that part of your brain just doesn't work as well as it should. And I was very impulsive. I didn't think through at all. I took the lighter, I grabbed a piece of paper, light it on fire. The thing went up like really fast. I didn't expect it to light up that fast. Bro, it drops in the garbage can. The whole garbage can goes up on fire. Now I'm taking
Oh
water from the
no.
toilet, bro. I'm scooping water from the toilet, trying to put the thing out. Long story short, the little fire alarms go off, the water sprinkler things. So now this water sprinkler going off, the bells are all going off. I ran out of there, and it was a Friday. Come Monday morning, of course, like this completely went past me. This whole weekend. Coming to class, we're taking the chairs off the desk, and brother principal called me over to the corner. She was in at the door of the classroom with two police officers, and I wasn't processing. I wasn't putting like one and one together. Long story short, that was the beginning of a little 3 month detention center, a stint that I did. But yeah, that
Damn,
was
they,
just one
they
of the
thought you
ways,
were
man.
trying to burn the school down.
Dude, yo, yeah, look, I don't think I could have actually burned it down. I don't know if it was that big a fire, but that's what they charged me with. It was arson. Right? Like 9 years old and you're
Mhm.
charged with arson. Crazy.
Wild, bro. And then it's crazy. So you're rocking your quote unquote cousin's clothes and stuff, but even like the little things affecting you, like the people you're surrounding yourself with, and obviously he was smoking a lot, keeping the lighters on him, and it inadvertently affected you. You were just trying to rock his
A
clothes. You weren't
hundred
even trying
percent.
to smoke at the time. You were just rocking his clothes, but he had a lighter in there, and you were playing with the lighter, and you almost lit the whole damn school on fire.
And I bet, like again, it's not like I thought through that at the time, but there's no doubt in my mind looking back that was a form of me trying to get some attention, whether it's from the
Mhm.
kids at the school, whatever the case is. That was just a form of seeking attention. It wasn't that I was inherently a bad kid. Looking back, I
Yeah.
don't think I was a bad kid per se, but I was looking for attention in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No,
And you were shaped that way because of the realities that hit you when it came to what happened with your parents and everything.
right,
That it goes to show, like, even at the youngest age, like, we become our environment, who we surround ourselves with then. And unfortunately, we don't have control on who we surround ourselves with at the age at
right,
being a
right,
kid, but now we do. So that's a story as well as is right there. So
exactly.
was there a certain point when you were a kid where you realized, you know, I'm going to take the things that has happened to me and I'm not going to conform? Or did it just kind of happen over time? Was there a certain moment that made you be like, Brian, like, don't fall into the statistic?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think when the baseball journey originally started, probably around 11, is when that
Mm,
and that's the power of sports, man. I'm not sure what I would have done without that dream in front of me to push me forward to become something better than what I should have been. Like,
mm-hmm,
yeah, and then well, I was going to go into the boxing journey and how that connected, because it's the same concept, right? Like you're constantly presented with choices of what you could be if you allow yourself to fall right into certain traps and pits and etc., or what you could be if you get your shit together, right? If you get your act together, if you have something to chase, a dream to pursue. Um, yeah, so that's when it started for me, was baseball. Was around 11 or 12. I realized that, I don't want to be, and I didn't know these statistics. Now looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I made it. Right? Like
yeah,
these statistics
right.
I didn't know at the time, but I did know that things could be very bad very easily. Like seeing just my friends in my very close circle, people at very young ages doing very stupid things that they had to pay for a long time for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And
And it's why go through that yourself when it's literally right in front of your eyes? Learn from them, right?
the easiest way, right? You don't got to go through hard things yourself.
Last thing on the baseball like thing,
Mm.
what brought that, to to what made that a dream for you? Did you just see you started watching it on TV and you were like, I want to get good at baseball? Is that what
Yeah,
it
it's funny
was?
how life works. Now, I think sometimes they say things don't happen by coincidence. I'm not sure if they do or they do, or they don't. I'm not going to argue that, but I will say, um, yeah, it was kind of strange how it happened. So at the time, I was living with the I call her my grandma. She's not really my grandma, but I was living. It's my father's ex-wife, my ex-brother's, excuse me, my half brother's
You just
mother.
got good people looking after you, man. You went from
Incredibly good people,
literally
man.
the this is the third person that was at a random that
That's
started
right,
looking out for you. That
and there were
that what a
more.
blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she at the time, incredibly big heart. So she takes in not only me, who's again no blood relation to her. She takes in also a friend of hers who's in Dominican Republic. He was sick. He had a couple kids. He could only take care of two that were in Dominican Republic. She takes in another kid. He's the same age as me, Raphael, and we become cousins, right? So now
Mhm.
it's me, my cousin, so to speak, living together, and my half brother's mother. And he was the baseball player. He came from Dominican Republic here, and he had already been exposed to baseball in Dominican Republic. So he comes back, and he needs a buddy to play catch with. And long story short, man, I was hooked. Similar to, I'm sure, how the boxing journey started for you. Once you touch it, there's some things you start and you become obsessed.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, and the way that all lined up, and for Rafael to come through and share baseball with you, and then ends up leading you to that. So just to recap on everything so far, you lose your parents at an early age. You should have became a statistic, but somehow people looked out for you. Random people looked out for you. You went through, what you could call luck and a blessing, which
Right.
other people would
Right.
think negatively on that. But no, you looked at it as a positive. You had blessings, you had luck, people looking out for you, and that led you to your love for baseball. Your love for baseball turned into a love for boxing, after college. And now you're doing the craziest things, which leads me to my third question. I mean, you went from the challenge of becoming a professional fighter, a good fighter, undefeated,
My man.
that's an
We can
extreme
keep that.
challenge
I'm
there,
gonna keep
but
that title because I'm retired. That's it.
yeah,
Undefeated.
yeah, let's go. Let's go. That's
That's
all.
funny.
Hey, you've done what 99.9% of people will never do in boxing. And not just in boxing, but all these other challenges I'm about to list off right here. You went from running the New York City Marathon to climbing Mount Everest to climbing Kilimanjaro. You ran another marathon through the ice and snow in Greenland. You even did an ayahuasca ceremony in Brazil. I mean, where did the desire for taking it to this now, from baseball to boxing to these crazy challenges?
It's funny, man, when I hear people put it that way, because I've had a couple of people say, "Oh my God, you're doing such crazy stuff," and I'm like, I'd argue boxing is far crazier than anything you just listed, right? To stand toe to toe with somebody, face to face. Um, yeah, but I think we talked about this off the before we started recording off the air a little bit. Um, I think what drove me to do this, I think, is what drives, well, maybe not what drives, but certainly what is within everybody, which is the desire to be the best you can possibly be, the to fulfill your fullest potential in whatever form that looks, right? And I think there's a lot of ways to do that. I don't think, as they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Some people, find it through yoga or whatever it is, running marathons or boxing. And this is, for me, doing extreme things, or maybe to some this may not be extreme, but for me it's extreme, right? Some of these things you listed is really hard
Bro,
for me.
it's extreme.
Yeah.
These are extreme, bro.
But yeah, and I think you can relate to this, man. I think adversity, difficult things are such a great teacher for you. And if you can put yourself in situations that are very hard intentionally, um, there's a lot of growth out of that. There's a lot on the other side of whatever it is you're putting yourself through. And I think it's worth to go through the things. They're gonna
Mhm.
suck, they're gonna hurt, they're gonna be hard. You might get hurt, whether we're talking physically or just, from a spiritual bruise, so to speak. But absolutely worth it. So that's why I do it. I know that these hard things are great teachers for me.
Oh, that's incredible. And I mean, you said, you compared these extreme things, these extreme races and adventures and journeys to boxing, and how crazy it is to stand toe to toe with somebody and go at it. But honestly, in my opinion, I'm going to go the opposite of that. I think it's even more difficult to stand toe to toe with yourself and to confront those things about yourself. It's easy for me to stand in front of somebody and go toe to toe with you and throw hands with you, and maybe you're better than me and prove I'm better than you. But it's harder, in my opinion, to stand in front of yourself and be like, what's wrong with me? What can I
Mm,
do better with myself?
right.
Why am I the way I am? How can I
Right.
make myself better? That's a hard thing to do, brother.
And that's the beautiful
And
thing about boxing, though, no, because it
yeah.
presents you with that opportunity, right? Like to not just confront the guy in front of you, but like you said, to confront you, right? Like, what are you afraid
Mm-hmm.
of, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's an incredible, what's the word? Not platform, but it's a great opportunity to flex that
Yeah.
muscle, so to speak. The me versus me type of
Yeah,
muscle.
that you've it really is, and as it's kind of been marketed through so many things and commercialized a little bit, but it really is you versus you, in all things, boxing, sports, life in general. It really takes you to look inward, and Christina from the last episode weighed in heavily on looking inward and recognizing what are those things about me that I don't like, that I want to improve on, and in turn that gains the energy and the respect from others around you, and it affects so many things,
And the
but yet we
respect you
tend
have for
to
yourself
neglect it.
too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What was the hardest out of all of them, man? Take me through the
The hardest, man. It's funny, man. Out of all of those, I would say the physical stuff, man, is easy, right? Like, I think you can relate to
Mm,
this. It's once you do, at least once you box at the level, I think, and not to say that I'm a world class level boxer, but I've certainly been with world class level
yeah.
trainers and other fighters, and I think we've pushed ourselves at a level that's on par, at least with the
Hmm.
professional level. So once you push yourself to that degree, the physical stuff I think is easy. Running, whatever, you climbing. The hardest of those would be the ayahuasca stuff, because it goes back to what you said. It
Wow.
it forces you to sit and reflect and look at you and parts of you that you don't like, parts of you that you want to put away and hide. That's hard.
Wow.
That's hard.
Okay. So let's review this really quick. Kilimanjaro, how long did that take you?
That was like an 8 day. They gave you options. It was like 5, 6, 7. But the longer you take, the more chances you have to acclimatize as you go up. So I took the longest. It was 8 days, and still struggled.
8 days.
Yeah. So I don't know how
Okay,
people do longer.
Everest. How long did that take you
Yeah. So
to
that
climb?
was a little longer. It took us like 2 weeks just to get to the base camp of Everest, which was like at 17,000 like 700 feet. And then from that base camp, we had to run down a marathon, uh, another 26.2 miles from the base camp, and that took 10 hours and 40 minutes. That was 10:40. That was crazy.
Just to go down.
Yeah, down, bro. It was not down. It was like you go up crazy steep and you go down crazy steep. You go up, so yeah, it didn't feel like down for sure.
Okay, Greenland looked crazy. The content from that, you ran a full marathon through ice and snow. How long did that take you?
Yeah, that was a crazy time. We did that was like a 6 hour total race. The tough part was though, like maybe a quarter of it, 25% was on this ice cap, and you had to wear these spikes in the bottom of your feet. That was just hard to like, to grip the surface. So you work on muscles. How do you train for that? What do Central Park? There's no
Yo,
crazy.
eight 8 day trek, Kilimanjaro. Mount Everest was even longer. Then you had to wear spikes on your shoes for the Greenland marathon.
Uh,
But yet the hardest thing you've done was the ayahuasca ceremony.
by far, bro.
Why?
And the yeah, not only the hardest, but the most rewarding, right? Because all these things are rewarding in their own way too, right? Like they're hard, but they're very satisfying, right? So the reason the ayahuasca was the hardest, and this may or may not get get too deep for the vid, but I'm gonna
No,
share it
please
anyway.
go. No, do it, bro. Do it. That's what it's
Yeah.
for.
So the ayahuasca ceremony was yeah, what made it really challenging. Well, we'll just start with the basic stuff, the simple difficulties, right? So you're basically in the jungle. You don't have any of the comforts that you're used to, right? You're in these little bungalow style, single cot on wood type of arrangements, and it was all vegan food. There's no coffee. There's no food with salt. There was no sugar allowed. So if we're just talking surface level discomfort, right? Like that's hard. I love meat. I love coffee. All these things
Hmm.
that I can't have here, right? And you're in a foreign country in Brazil where the food is very different from what I'm used to eating. So we have that level of difficulty. Um, that was hard. And then yeah, the actual ceremonies, and I'll just kind of go through them quickly. There was four total ceremonies, but the first two were a bust. I had come into it anticipating this incredible experience from what I'd heard. I was expecting explosions of colors and incredible insights, like enlightenment, and that none of that happened the first 2 nights. But on the third night, it's funny about ayahuasca. They say it's like getting 10 years of therapy in one session. And I tell you, I was like, sign me up, because I got a lot of shit here, and I got very little time to work on this. So if I can just get this done, so that's what I was hoping for. And the first 2 nights it didn't happen, and then on the third night, um, yeah, I got exactly not what I wanted, but what I needed. There was I'm not sure if you or the audience knows much about ayahuasca, but and I'm not an expert either, so I'll just kind of briefly touch on what the experience is and why people do it. It's used more of like a therapeutic setting, right? So you're supposed to have intention behind why it is you're taking this psychedelic, right? Because that's what it is. I forgot what it might be, DMT, dimethyltryptamine. I forgot what it is that it has in it that causes the hallucination, so to speak. But anyway, it's the plant, I think they call it, of the dead souls, where you're supposed to essentially be able to contact uh, spirits, whether these are people that personally that have passed away in your life, um, or otherwise. And anyway, so my goal was I had come in there with the intention of healing a part of me that still felt obviously very wounded from what had happened early on, losing my mom, losing my dad, and I wanted to unload this. I wanted to get this off my back. I was tired of carrying it around for so long. Um, and so that was my intention. And so the third night, so I go in there and I'm just hoping for some insights as to how I can release all this stuff and just move on with my life. And yeah, man, it was crazy. There was a purge. You take this like small dose. It almost feels like, remember Pepto Bismol back in the day? You take like a really little
Mm.
tiny bit. And yeah, so I took a little tiny dose, and I'm sitting there. We sit in this circle. It's dark. All the lights are off. There's this really powerful. I'm not even sure how to describe it. Uh, what's it called? Sanskrit. That's what it's called. Sanskrit music. I'm not sure if you heard of Sanskrit music, but
Mm.
it's the wild. Is the music is taking on this journey, and then all of a sudden, the ayahuasca kicks in, and I'm in this field. My mom is there. I have this really deep, and I won't go too much into the actual experience, but I had this really deep experience, man, where I'm in contact with my mom. I'm in contact with my dad, and I'm getting in contact with things that I had put away for a long time, and having these visions and memories I hadn't had for a long time. Maybe because I just blocked them off and didn't want to feel them. Um, but yeah, man, that was a wild experience. The next day it was a lot to unpack. And it was really hard, especially because I was sober and lucid to write down all the things that I experienced. And yeah, it was hard. Just to get back to the question, because I don't want to get off on a tangent here. There's a lot to unpack in the
No, this
ayahuasca
is, I'm
ceremony.
getting goosebumps. You sharing, like, it finally hit you that third night, and you're in a field talking with your parents. Like, that,
Wild, man. And I'll
that's
tell you, it seemed more
that's
real.
wild.
Everybody has dreams, and it's not to say dreams are real in a weird way, right? They're real because they happen. They're actually real. They're just not real in the sense that we talk about real, like reality, right? Like
Mm, mm,
dreams are very real, right? We know that if you dream, you can have physiological reactions to the dream you were having, right? You wake up, your heart's racing,
mm,
breathing heavy, sweating.
mm.
So that experience, man, it felt more real than anything real that I've ever been a part of, like more real
Wow.
than reality, man. And bro, it sounds like such a cliche, but after that day, like once I came back from that trip, I have barely given a thought to all the things that I had running through my mind that were connected with that kind of, yeah, despair. There's no other way to put it. Like
Hmm.
they're carrying around a
Hmm.
big fucking bag of bricks. Each one had
Hmm.
the word despair on it. And yeah, man, it was the greatest blessing, but again, the hardest thing, right? And that's a common theme. The harder things, the harder the experience you tend to go through, the more you typically get out of it. That's what I've noticed
Hmm.
in my experience.
Hmm. And I think, it goes back to something you said earlier and we talked about earlier, just facing ourselves, strip down everything. Man, you went full sober from everything, not even salt, no coffee, nothing. You did the ceremony and you dealt with something that you haven't been wanting to deal with in a minute.
Right, right.
And you faced it face to face and you got the most out of it. So I'm assuming the conversation went well, right, in the field.
Oh, bro, it's crazy. It was I wouldn't even say it was a conversation. It was literally like two words just repeated over and over. It was like it's okay, you can let go, right? It's like it was just
Mm,
it was it's incredible, man. Just like how you can be beside somebody and without words necessarily being spoken, you can just there's like a dialogue that happens between people that you don't need words to communicate. And there was so
mhm.
much spoken without being said when I was there. Yeah, it was a wild
That
experience, man.
that's incredible. And
Highly
again, you
recommend it
did
for
something.
everybody, by the way. I highly
Yo,
recommend it for everybody.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in going down that path and journey, and that's why I was looking forward to asking you about it and talking with you about it. So many people I know, like, others are kind of commercializing it and selling
Right,
it
right.
as these experiences, but
Mhm.
you want to experience it at the most authentic and purest form, like you did.
100%,
And
man.
was there a difference why the third night hit and the first two didn't? Was there a mindset shift before that, or?
It's funny. I think I spoke to the shaman after the whole. I should have done this sooner, but I spoke to her after that third session, and she mentioned to me that I probably should have followed the diet leading up to the ceremonies. So you're supposed to
Uh,
go, yeah, you're supposed to go no meat, no caffeine, and all these other things that they give you a list of. You're not supposed to have them for like 2 weeks leading up to the ayahuasca event to sort of cleanse your
oh,
body.
okay,
I'm not too sure
okay.
the chemicals and stuff, but there's apparently some compounds in the protein of meat and stuff like that blocks the ayahuasca
Hmm.
from working. Yeah, I'm not too sure on the specifics of it, but I think that was it. I think it took. I was what 5 days in by the time the third ceremony happened. So 5 days of eating vegetarian, it probably just cleansed my body out, and so it had a
Hmm.
really profound effect.
So are you full on vegan now, or you went back to eating
Nah,
meat and
hell
drinking
no.
coffee?
Nah. No
You
disrespect
still
to
be
the,
hit,
yeah,
yeah. You still be hitting pickles and getting a wrap
all of
after
it,
after
dog.
training and
I'll
stuff.
be killing it, man. Burgers, fries, yeah, for
You know,
sure.
I'm the same, and it is kind of unfortunate though, like how much chemicals and shit is in the stuff that we put in our body, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely a lot more mindful of it now and trying to eat as organic and pure as possible. And damn, bro, I love a good burger, pizza, all in moderation. You know
Of
what I
course, yeah.
mean?
Even moderation, right? No,
Oh man, what a thank you for sharing that, brother. Like, I mean,
no
you
doubt,
you've
man.
shared some deep stuff today, and I really hope it's opened a lot of people's eyes on and motivated people. Like, look, like you can go through a lot of shitty situations and traumatic stuff, but like constantly take it back to yourself and ask yourself, what do you want to become? Do you want to become, what a negative environment is, or do you want to leave that negative environment and do great things that you've
Right.
done? And wow, I'm like almost at a loss for words. That the ayahuasca thing was the most difficult challenge
By
that you
far,
put
man.
yourself
By
through.
far. And
And
you know,
coming back from it.
go ahead.
No, go, please go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I'm sure, everybody could relate to this. I think if you just use the boxing example, right? Like, think about the feeling of a loss. We've both lost before, right? As amateurs,
Hmm.
we both lost. So, like, talk about facing you, right? Like, you're on the train heading home, or you're in the car driving home, and here you are having to face your shortcomings while you lost. Right?
Hmm.
Like, that's harder
Hmm.
than the fight. Like, it's the personal stuff, the personal development stuff, facing you. I think those, they're the hardest things, but like we said before, they're the most rewarding things. And I think it'd be great if we
Hmm.
encourage not just other people, but leading by example, like you do, man. Like, talk about master mentality. It goes far beyond just doing things. It's important to also practice looking into you and trying to be better, and not just always trying to do better, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it's as simple as sitting down in front of that mirror, writing down in a journal, like how do I feel today? Why do I feel today? And if I don't like how I'm feeling, what are the things that I can do right here, right now to change those? As
Right.
simple as that. And then it branches off into these incredible things that we can do, whether it's an actual fight, Golden Gloves, professional boxing match, climbing Everest, climbing Kilimanjaro, doing ayahuasca ceremony. It leads into that, but it all starts with just sitting there and having that conversation with yourself. The final question, man, just to wrap this up, one lesson that boxing has taught you that you want to share with others.
One lesson that boxing has taught. That's man, it's hard to say, right? Because there's a lot of good ones in
There's
there,
so
right?
many.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of good ones in there.
no, yeah.
Um,
Could be light, could be deep, don't matter.
yeah,
Just what pops up in your head.
I think, man, I'm gonna have to go back to what I mentioned earlier, man. I think adversity is a great teacher, and I think boxing, that's the greatest lesson that boxing has given me. It's that it's good for you to do some hard things. You should be a little uncomfortable. You you should be reaching farther than that you can grab sometimes, right? Like, and that's what I think is the best lesson that I hope others would get out of boxing, is that through doing intentional hard things, intentionally putting yourself. And when I say hard things, it could be as simple as doing a hard workout, right? Like, that is good for you. It doesn't mean that you have to go in there and spar somebody. You know, just doing something that's difficult, I think, is great for you. And I think that's the greatest lesson boxing has taught me, to lean into hard things, that they're good for me.
Damn. Yeah. And again, one small little hard thing, as in doing a boxing workout, leads into you actually competing at an
You see what I'm
amateur
saying?
level,
Yeah.
which leads to you competing to a professional level, which leads to you doing these crazy, self seeking adventures. Like,
Or it could just lead to
incredible,
you doing
brother.
the public speaking event that you were always scared to do. Like, it's funny, man. I see people, I know you see it as a trainer as well, man. Like, working with people over the years as they go through their boxing journey, you see how it spills out into their lives, right? Like, it's not just that they get better at boxing and it stays in that little, vacuum. It's like they get better at life as they get better at boxing. They learn to confront
Hmm.
things that they were scared of, or etc. Right? So yeah, you're right. It bleeds
Hmm.
out of your life. It's an amazing
Hmm.
thing, man.
Amazing. And then that's why we preach it to and share it with with others, man, because there's so much more to it than just fighting, than
Yeah,
just throwing
it's
hands
such
with
a small
somebody. And
portion
that
of it.
is, yeah, if anything, what's the all right, final thing? What's the last, or what? Not the last, but what's the next challenge that you're looking to pursue, or are you kind of chilling out for a little bit?
Yeah, I'm always plotting, man. So, but
Yeah.
this one's far away. This is not till April, but it's called the Marathon des Sables, and it's like a 6 day ultra marathon that takes place in the
Mm.
desert. So it's like a self sufficient. You have to bring your own backpack. You sleep in tents outside and stuff. You have to bring your cooking utensils, and over 6 days, you run 150 miles. Um,
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
It's
Every day is like a marathon. You do
insane.
27, like 30 miles some days. But yo, and fact is, I don't even
Wild.
know if I'm capable. We'll find out. It's like when you get in the ring, you're not sure if you're gonna win. There's no guarantees.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Yo. That's well, happy training to you, brother. Like it
I'm gonna need
makes
it.
me think. I was trying to do the New York City Marathon next month. Unfortunately, couldn't get a bib, so I guess I got to push it to next year. But you
Damn.
go off and do 5 marathons in a row within 5 days in the desert, bro.
But you
More
know how it
power
is.
to
Like you
you.
said, that's where it starts, man. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still, because I saw for a while you would turn up the training really hard there as far as the sparring and stuff like that. How's that going? What's going on with boxing?
It's good, man. It's still on the list for me to do at least one professional fight.
My man.
Unfortunately, it's a little harder, when you have kids and other responsibilities as far as business. So when I
Yeah.
find the right show that I want to be on to showcase my skill set at a professional level, I'm gonna hop in full force into a training camp. I'm training every day, but you can't keep a training camp intensity 365, 52 weeks of the year.
No.
Your body
Yeah.
just, and your mind.
It's
Before
not
I even started
possible.
the
Yeah.
record button, I was taking supplements right now. I take stuff for my brain health, the omegas, and I do the alpha brain from on it to strengthen my brain, because we've taken it comes with a price, right? Fighting
100% it
fighting
does.
the
Yeah.
brain trauma we take, and I'm in it for the long run, man. So definitely both sides of it I'm looking after, and being smart and strategic with it, just like how I did with my boxing career, and being able to compete, but also build a business that was going
It's
to
not easy to
take
do,
care
man.
of me
You've
in
done
the
an
future.
incredible job, and then you add in two kids on the plate, man. I mean,
Oh
honestly,
my
bro, you
gosh.
talk about looking up to you. I mean, looking up to somebody, man. That is incredible.
Uh,
I have trouble juggling just the bare minimum of wiping my own ass and taking care of myself, along with the other stuff.
and you got a
Man,
dog too now, so you get it a little bit.
that's a very small
Yeah.
taste. And I tell you, bro, it is eye opening though, isn't it? Like I think just having to be
Yeah.
responsible, like you said, for anything outside of yourself, is hard.
Yeah.
But again, I'd imagine very good.
Well, I appreciate you, brother.
Mm,
You inspire me too.
my man.
And for everyone to check you out, Instagram is your main source of
Yeah, yeah,
of,
yeah.
of
IG Brian.
contact and content. Look up Brian Cubero on Instagram. Reach out to him. He'll start a dialogue with them. I mean, you could see it's just fun having a conversation with this gentleman right here.
My
Brian, I
man.
appreciate you for coming on the
My
show,
bro.
and
Nothing
and
but
thank
love,
you
my
for
man.
sharing the story. Until next time, y'all, you keep that maestre mentality. You keep elevating yourself so you can elevate those around you, baby.
That's right.
Good stuff.